Welcome to the NWI.com Political Roundtable for Wednesday, July 31st. I'm Robert Blaskowitz, Assistant Managing Editor of The Times. Joining with me today, Krista Zvanovic, Assistant Managing Editor of The Times. Doug Ross is on vacation, so we'll look forward to having him back next week. I wanted to jump right in and talk about the big story this week, which was something that was broken by Associated Press reporter Tom LoBianco on Monday. He, through Freedom of Information Act, received a series of emails that were exchanged in the Department of Education during the term of Tony Bennett, the former Secretary of Education for the state, who was ousted in last year's election by Glenda Ritz, the Democrat. But anyway, while Bennett was in, a series of emails went back and forth when the grades were coming out of it was the first year for the A through F grading for the schools, and he was seeing that one particular charter school in Indianapolis run by Crystal DeHaan, who is a very prominent donor to Republicans, had lower grades than expected. It was expected that they would be an A school. They had been ranked a C school due to some particular, I think they cited
10th grade algebra scores that were abysmal.
Yeah. So anyway, these series of emails go back and forth in the department. This is big trouble. This is going to cause all kinds of problems for us. We have to fix this. And you see
it's
them.
It's an embarrassing hindrance to their accountability because they really believe in public charter schools and
right.
Yeah.
So what you see is you see basically them tweaking the formula of how these A through F grades are figured in order to get the Crystal DeHaan School, Crystal House, up to an A, and they in fact end up getting it up to an A in the final
Not
report.
just to a B, which is certainly
above
average.
Yeah. It's akin to when you sit there in your report card and you'd fill in and you change a D to a B or no. This was same kind of deal. But anyway, what I think this has done is really cast a cloud over the whole A through F grading system, which had a lot of detractors. And in fact, Glenda Ritz, when she came and talked to us last year, I remember her talking about these high stakes testing and this A through F, which she had a problem with putting so much emphasis on these test results, and that it affected, whether schools would remain open or be taken over by the state. Funding for schools was affected by these grades, and so it kind of
reputation in the community, the value of your home. Do people want to move to your community? And certainly not if it's a C grade.
Right.
And really some people complained, a lot of local educators right from the beginning complained that the formula didn't account for the amount of developmentally disabled that played into the score. Now, in his defense, Tony Bennett said that the school, Crystal House, only went from K through 10th grade. So there were some metrics or something that didn't fit with the college and career readiness, so they were reclassified as a middle school, and that's how the grade went up. But there is some talk in these emails about the legality of just raising the grades for Crystal House Charter School. Eventually, other charter schools' grades also were changed based on the metrics that they looked at for these schools. But I do think it brings into question this formula from the beginning. I know Mayor McDermott had some very serious concerns because he developed several years ago his School for Technology. It's called HAST. I can't remember what the acronym stands for. And they were not able to get all their test scores in timely to the Department of Education. And when they finally did, they appealed and said, can we get all of this in so we can maintain? They had a C grade originally, and DOE said, absolutely not, too late, you snooze, you lose. So they got an F grade when McDermott claims they're really not an F school. And yet this other school, charter school, that also had a C grade, suddenly somehow because of certain metrics got raised to an A. So it does, it seems like a legitimate concern.
And it demonstrates how subjective the whole
Correct.
process is.
Correct.
And that you can
Correct.
let's shift this number over here, shift this number over here, and all of a sudden
And it was
a grade has
an
changed.
election year, and everybody was wondering why the grades were delayed. It took quite a while. They were delayed far longer than when they were supposed to have come out, and it was very mysterious and heavy-cavey. And now we realize, thanks to
Right.
looking at the emails, what was going on. So I recommend people look at the emails themselves and judge for themselves,
Yeah.
because there are two sides to every story.
You can see the emails on our site.
can see-
They are attached to the original Tom Lobianco's. I think there's a link to Bennett Under Fire at the top of our webpage for the original
Right.
story, and
And
the
then
story
to
is
his
linked to
comments,
today's.
you
Yeah,
know,
the story is
after the
also
fact.
that story is also linked from today's story
Yeah.
that Carmen McCollum, our education reporter, did, following up with school officials who were also very concerned and critical about the way this looks.
Right.
And Glenda Ritz has come out and said that they're going to look at the whole grading system, and I'm sure this is going to kind of set the stage for a battle over those reforms that were kind of some of the signature reforms of Tony Bennett's.
Right. And again, in
tenure.
fairness to Tony Bennett, he really was bent on reform and had some very good ideas that a lot of people did support. But just something to keep in mind, and I think this is also a good point. Ryan Ridgely, who's a teacher at Munster Middle School and president of the Teachers Union there, said he thinks it's part of, and so did Scott Pilath, a Democrat from Michigan City. They both said this seemed to them to be a systematic enhancement of scores for charter schools, because that administration believed in charter schools and was kind of trying to make public schools look bad. And I think there's something perhaps to that philosophy as well.
And I think there is a bigger kind of debate going on, not only in Indiana but in the country, about these efforts, because it is, and Tony Bennett landed in Florida, where a lot of these efforts are continuing, and Jeb Bush, kind of he was
Right.
one of
Right when he was governor.
Jeb Bush was governor, and he kind of aimed to do the same kind of things in Florida. But this kind of debate over taking resources from public schools and shifting them into charter schools, many of which are run by for-profit companies.
And so far, many of whose scores are showing they're not any better than public schools. They aren't doing any better job than public schools so far. So.
Yeah, so it's going to be,
Except for Crystal House, which is now an A school.
So I'm sure we haven't heard the last of this. I'm sure, and in fact, I was reading some stories out of Florida, Miami Herald and others, and they were talking about the future of Tony Bennett and how this is going to be political trouble for the governor down there, Rick Scott,
Right.
and how he may have to cut bait on Bennett, and so I'm sure this isn't the last we've heard of this controversy. But it's like Krista said, it's worth going and reading the emails, because it's kind of like this kind of hair on fire kind of thought,
right.
which to me was way out of proportion.
I thought so too.
With what the situation was.
Right.
And it kind of spoke to me about, well, boy, there are too many. If there's this much of just agony over these 10th grade algebra scores, something's a little out of whack. We're kind of like losing the
And something's
focus of
amiss if he's so concerned about this one. It's a public charter school. It should be added Republican donor. Over the past 15 years, Crystal DeHaan has given about $15 million to the Republican Party, and she's given $130,000 or had to Tony Bennett for his campaign. So.
Yeah. Let's shift over to some local kind of financial matters, and it's kind of interesting. We have kind of in Lake County and Porter County the prospect of money, additional revenues that are going to be coming in, and how to appropriate those. You want to talk about what's going on in Lake County?
I will speak briefly. Starting August 27th, it will be the beginning of the budget hearings, which are open to the public. We'll have a story online now and in tomorrow's print edition. They end September 30 when the budget will be accepted, but they are there many, many days talking about the budget. And I exhort all citizens to pay attention, because now Lake County has an additional $15 million a year it didn't have before. Normally they would be coming into this budget process discussing cuts from parks to public safety to maintaining salaries for the nearly 1,700 Lake County employees. Well, now with the $15 million, due to the 1.5% income tax that was passed by the Lake County Council and the commissioners. So starting August 27th, they're going to look at, and already $15 million, at least in requests, have been made. $7 million for the jail to comport with the Department of Justice's requirements that have been ongoing for several years after lawsuits were brought by several inmates for terrible conditions all around. About $3 million to maintain the county's bridges and flood control areas, and $7 million to shore up the employee pension and health care. So that's $15 million right there. So it'll be interesting to see if they're circumspect with the public watching them with this new money.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how much of the public is, because obviously the public was very engaged when the debate was going on to pass the income tax, and there were a lot that were fighting that. So it'll be interesting to see if there will be the same attention paid to the process of spending this newfound revenue.
Right.
So, yeah, in Porter County, the Porter County Commissioners are currently, and the council for that matter, are currently looking at what they've been looking at it for a long time, what to do with the funds that came from the sale of Porter Hospital to a private company. They have $115 million, and rather than just spend that money and have it be gone, I think the intent, and it looks like the route they're going, is to place it into an endowment, and then basically use the revenue from that endowment to supplement the budget. And so they're about to have we're supposed to have a meeting next Tuesday with the county council on that, but they've called, the commissioners have delayed that to do some more fact-finding on kind of their options. One of the options they're looking at is to set up the endowment through the Porter County Community Foundation. That's the nonprofit that runs endowments for a lot of agencies and nonprofits in Porter County. I happen to be president of the Dollars for Scholars Board, Portage High School Dollars for Scholars, and we have our endowment run through the Porter County Community Foundation, and they do a fantastic job of kind of lifting that burden in terms of the financial management of that money off of us, and allow us to kind of focus on other tasks with the organization, and they kind of just take care of that money part.
And how best to use the money, right?
Right. So so we can focus on how best to spend the money. They make sure that the money's safe, taken care of, and that we have a revenue stream coming in to fund our scholarships. So it's a great thing for us. I think the easy thing for the county is there would not be a need to set up a separate board or agency to spend this money. The money would basically just go back into the general fund, and it would be there to supplement the county's budget. I think if they were to go another route with it, they would have to possibly create a separate board.
A whole new bureaucracy
that
then would have to be watched carefully.
Right. So we'll see what they come up with, but that's obviously on the horizon. So. Yep. So that's all the time we have this week. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back next week with another political roundtable.